Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this class, we shall discuss about another important modern history topic, that is the foundation of the Indian National Congress, the reality. In the previous class, we discussed about the foundation of the Indian National Congress, the myth. And we saw that the story revolving the formation of Indian National Congress, it involves two opinions. So it is believed that Indian National Congress was formed as part of the safety valve theory conceived by Britishers. It means Indian National Congress was formed to favor Britishers. And in that formation, Alan Octavian Hume played an important role, and he was supported by Dufferin. So this is a myth surrounding the formation of Indian National Congress. And the same previous discussion, we also saw that there are a few facts which were presented in favor of that safety valve. And finally, we also had a few proofs which helped us to dismantle the theory of safety valve. And finally, we came to a conclusion that the theory of safety valve is a myth. It's not truth. Then the next question is, what is truth? What is the real reason behind the formation of Indian National Congress? So in this topic, we'll be discussing about that reality, the real reason behind the formation of the Indian National Congress. So in this topic, we will be discussing from both prelims as well as mains point of view. So as and when we encounter different points, I will be highlighting whether that point becomes important from prelims point of view or mains point of view. Because the syllabus is very bulky and it becomes very difficult for us to prioritize into what is important and what is not important. And every point which is present in Bipan Chandra, it starts appearing important for us. So here we have made it easy for you. So we'll segregate the things into important and unimportant, and we'll also let you know the points which can be beneficial from prelims point of view and the points which will help us from mains point of view. So let us begin. Foundation of the Indian National Congress, the reality. So before going with the other actual developments, in this topic we encounter various organizations, and from UPSC point of view, whenever there is an organization which appears, then it becomes very important. And the various aspects of an organization which UPSC generally focuses is its formation year and its founders. So if you look at the previous year question papers, then every alternative year or once in a 2 to 3 years, there will be a question related to organization. So from that context, so there are few of these organizations which have appeared in Bipan Chandra's this topic, and wherever there is a dearth of information, in few of the instances where there is no information, we have added extra information. So when you go back and start reading Bipan Chandra, you should not feel that it is completely different. No, only few of the extra things which are missing we have added. For example, in few of the cases, there might not be information pertaining to the founders. So we have added the extra information related to founders. Okay. So in this topic, we come across an organization called as British Indian Association. British Indian Association. So what is the information that we are supposed to memorize? One is formation year 1851, and who are its founders? Its founders are Raja Radhakant Deb, so he was the founding president, and Debendranath Tagore was its secretary. Similarly, the next organization which appears is Bombay Association, founded in 1852, and founder is Jagannath Shankar Seth. Madras Native Association, founded in 1849, founded by Gazulu Lakshmi Narasu Chetty. So a question on this has probably appeared in the year 2017 or 18 UPSC prelims. So very important. Next, Indian Association was founded in 1876 by younger nationalists of Bengal, led by Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bose. Next, Madras Mahajan Sabha was started in 1884 by younger men of Madras, M. Veera Raghavacharya, G. Subramanya Iyer, P. Ananda Charlu, and others. Next, Bombay Presidency Association was started in 1885. By intellectuals like K.T. Telang and Feroz Shah Mehta. So initially they were part of other organization, and in that organization the leading men were Dadabhai, Framji, and Dinshaw Petit. So as K.T. Telang and Feroz Shah Mehta, they had differences with them. So they came out of that organization and they started a new organization, that is Bombay Presidency Association in 1885. Important. Next, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha. It started in 1870, and it was founded by Mahadev Govind Ranade, Ganesh Vasudev Joshi, and H. Chiplunkar. So here we'll understand that before the start of Indian National Congress also, there were many organizations which did exist, and they also have played some important role. But after that came a big organization, that is Indian National Congress. And in this context, in this topic, we also encounter various different newspapers, nationalist newspapers. So what are nationalist newspapers? The newspapers which are in favor of liberation of their country. So they think that the country should be independent of the foreign rule. So such nationalist newspapers we encounter in this topic. So the Hindu, Tribune, etc. So here we will be next in the forthcoming classes, we will be discussing a separate topic with respect to press. So there we will be discussing in detail. But in this topic, as we encounter the various newspapers, so it becomes important for us to explore for extra information. And in this context, we have explored extra information. So what is it, extra information? One is when they started and who are its founders. So the Hindu, it started, it was so publication in English, so started by G.S. Iyer, Veera Raghavachari, Racharya, and Subbarao Pandit. So when did it start? 1878. Next, Tribune, it started in 1881. So in English by Dayal Singh Majitiya. Similarly, Bengali in 1862, in English started by Girish Chandra Ghosh. Next, Maharatha was a newspaper in English, and Kesari in Marathi. So both of them, they started in 1881, and they were started by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, H. Chiplunkar, and G.G. Agarkar. Next, another very important newspaper, Amrita Bazar Patrika. So it started in 1868. So important because first vernacular press. So what do we understand by vernacular press? So there are two kinds of presses. One is in English and the other one is vernacular. Vernacular means if any newspaper is published in the regional language. For example, it may be Kannada, it may be Hindi, or it may be Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam. So all these are vernacular languages. So Amrita Bazar Patrika, it was first published, first vernacular press in Bengali. It used to get published in Bengali language. So it was started by Sisir Kumar Ghosh and Motilal Ghosh. Another important development related to Amrita Bazar Patrika is it overnight became an English newspaper, English language newspaper in 1878. So why did it become English language newspaper? The discussions regarding that we shall postpone, and we shall have a discussion in a topic called as the freedom of press, which we will be discussing in the forthcoming classes. Next, the Indian Mirror. So the Indian Mirror, it started in 1862. So it was started by Debendranath Tagore. Again, it was also published in English. Next, we shall see few of the developments before the Indian National Congress started in 1885. We shall see few of the developments and how these developments can be beneficial for us from prelims and mains point of view. Next, All India National Conference. All India National Conference, Indian Association had already in December 1883 organized it and had given a call for another one in December 1885. So what does it mean? There was a conference called as All India National Conference. So who started this conference? Indian Association. Who is the founder of Indian Association? Surendranath Banerjee. So when did it start? It started in 1883. So in 1883, the first session happened, and they fixed the date for the next session. They said that the next session would be held in December 1885. So that is why Surendranath Banerjee, who was involved in the AINC, could not for that reason attend the founding session of the National Congress in 1885. So what happened in 1885? So second session of All India National Conference was going on, and at the same time first Indian National Congress session was also going on. And Surendranath Banerjee was a person responsible for starting Indian Association and subsequently AINC. So that is why he could not attend the session of Indian National Congress. He could not attend the founding session of Indian National Congress. So very important point to note. Because from UPSC prelims point of view, what kind of questions can be asked? All India National Conference was started by Indian Association. Who started Indian Association? Surendranath Banerjee. Next, Surendranath Banerjee attended the first session of or the founding session of the Indian National Congress. False. Okay. So in this fashion, this information can be beneficial from prelims point of view, and the same can be beneficial also in case of mains answers as well. Wherever it is possible, wherever we think that it is relevant, it can be definitely used. Okay, definitely used. Next, other developments. Okay, so we shall look into the other developments. So how these developments are connected? Let's just go through them. Okay. So what is the myth? The myth surrounding the foundation of Congress? Safety wall. That Britishers created Indian National Congress as a safety wall, so that all the Indians, they will not go against the British in one go, and in order to temper the resistance that will be offered by the Indians, so they created Indian National Congress. So this is the myth, and we also saw few of the points to counter that myth, to counter the myth of safety wall. Here there are few more points which indicate that the real goal of Congress was different. With the help of these examples, we'll understand that Congress was not created as part of the safety wall, but Congress had a larger idea. Okay. Through these examples, it becomes clear. So in 1875, there was a continuous campaign around cotton import duties, which Indians wanted to stay in the interest of Indian textile industry. So what does it mean? So Indian textile industry, it requires cotton. It requires cotton. So it will get cotton as input and it will produce an output. So let us assume that it will produce a cotton shirt. It will produce a cotton shirt. So input is cotton. Input is cotton. So if cotton is available at a cheaper rate, then whatever the output the industry will produce, that will be available at a cheaper rate. Let us assume it will get 1 kg cotton at 100 rupees. Then the shirt which it produces, let us assume its cost is 220 rupees. Okay, 200 rupees. Okay, 200 rupees. So the input cost 100 rupees per kg of cotton, and the shirt which it will produce, it costs 200. Now if the cotton becomes costlier, then automatically the shirt will also become costlier. So when the shirt becomes costlier, so most of the customers, they will not be willing to purchase the shirt because it has become costlier. So if nobody comes forward to purchase the shirt, then it will have a negative impact on the textile industry. Probably some of the people might lose job and all. So if this should not happen, then initially the basic thing is the textile industry should receive cotton at cheaper rate. But one factor which contributes to the increase in cotton prices is import duties. So when you are importing something from the other country, let us assume you are importing cotton from other country, you have received it at just 100 rupees, but the government is charging 20% tax on it. So it means for 1 kg cotton for 100 rupees, the textile industry has to pay extra 20 rupees. So rather than getting cotton at 100 rupees, if it starts paying 120 rupees per kg, then what happens? Automatically the shirt will become costly. Let us assume for one shirt, rather than 200, it will become 240. Okay. The shirt will become costly and customers will not be interested to purchase a shirt which has become costlier. That is why the concern of the Indian textile industry is the government should reduce the taxes so that the input raw material, cotton, is available at a cheaper price, so that they can produce the final good at a cheaper price, so that they will get a good market. So as government was very much reluctant to reduce the prices, so the textile industry, so it protested against the Britishers. So this is one example of how anti-Britishers feeling had started arising in India. So this is one example. Similarly, we shall look into other examples as well. Next, Indians opposed the Afghan adventure of Lytton. So we know about the Lytton. Lytton was an viceroy from 1876 to 1880. So Lytton, he started a war in Afghanistan, but Indians were opposed to it. Why Indians were opposed to it? Because whenever there is a war, definitely there will be an increase in expenditure. So when you are sending soldiers to other countries, then you have to bear the expenditure of transportation, food, etc. So there are a lot of other charges which you have to bear. But from where will this money come from? This money will come from the taxes which the government has collected. And who has paid the tax? Indian citizens, the citizens of India. So we have paid the taxes. So our money, instead of being utilized for some constructive purposes like building of roads or building hospitals or building schools and colleges, So it is being used in unnecessary, unproductive thing called as war. So that's why Indians were unhappy, and that is why Indians compelled the British government to contribute towards the cost of Second Afghan War. So why are you using the tax money paid by Indians? If you are so much interested in war, then please use the tax money which has been collected in Britain in order to support your war in Afghanistan. So this was the second kind of resentment. The first one was cotton related tax, and this is one more such example which indicates that Indians had developed a kind of resentment against the Britishers. So similarly, we will find many more examples over here. So we'll just throw light on them. One more is government's effort to control Indian press through the Vernacular Press Act. So once we start discussing about the press freedom in the forthcoming classes, we'll be discussing in detail. But for time being, we shall assume at the superficial level, or we shall understand at the superficial level, that Vernacular Press Act was meant to control vernacular press. It means Indian English language newspapers, they could publish according to their wish. But when it comes to vernacular languages, then there were a lot of restrictions. So that is why the Indian press was unhappy with the Britishers because of the introduction of Vernacular Press Act. So this is another example which indicates the type of dislike which Indians had developed against the Britishers. Next, Indians also opposed the effort to disarm them through the Arms Act. Now we all know, if you want to hold an arm, for example a gun, then we require permission. We have to secure license and all. So all these are controlled under a law called as Arms Act. So in those days, so Britishers, they tried to amend the Arms Act. Through this amendment, what they wanted to achieve is holding of gun or weapons by Indians should be very difficult, whereas it was a very easy process for Europeans to secure a gun. So it means there was a discriminatory treatment between Indians and Europeans. Europeans could easily get access to arms, whereas Indians could not easily get access to arms. Again, it was considered as discriminatory. That is why Indian people, they opposed the Arms Act. They opposed the Arms Act. So next, similarly, Britishers, they introduced the Plantation Labor and the Indian Emigration Act. So as per this act, the laborers who are working in the plantations, plantation estates, for example, laborers who are working in tea estate or coffee estate, they were almost treated like slaves. So even if they want to do a small thing, they have to seek the permission of their boss. So it was very much a restrictive environment they created with the help of this act. So even Indians were opposed to this as well. So major agitation was organized during 1883 in favor of Ilbert Bill. So this Ilbert Bill controversy is very important, and also a question on this has been framed in UPSC Prelims 2013. So what is this Ilbert Bill controversy about, which could enable Indian magistrates to try Europeans? So what does it mean? So magistrates means here judges. Now before independence in India, there were Indians as well as Europeans who are residing in India. Also when it comes to judges, so judges can be an European judge or an Indian judge. So even Indian judges were there. Now suppose let us assume a person has committed a mistake. An Indian person has committed a mistake and he has to be sentenced, he has to be punished. So this punishment anyone can give, either Indian judge or foreign judge. Anyone can give punishment to a person to an Indian person who has committed any kind of crime or anything. But when it comes to a European who is residing in India, if he is a culprit, if he has committed any mistake, then punishment can be given to him only by Europeans. Indian judges could not give punishment to Europeans. So this was the case. But through Ilbert Bill, they wanted to make a provision wherein Indian magistrate can also punish Europeans. Indian magistrate can also try or punish Europeans. So this was the case. But this bill, it did not become a law. It did not become law because this was successfully thwarted by the Europeans. So in Europe, there was a widespread protest and all, and they defeated this bill. So this was also a discriminatory treatment because Indians were not treated on par with Europeans. So again, this also helped to build resentment against the Britishers. Next, there are a few examples here. In 1883, a national fund was created, which would be used to promote political agitation. So political agitation is nothing but sometimes you want to do strike and all. So you want to protest against the Britishers, but when you are doing all this process, it requires amount. It may be what banners or pamphlets. For all this, cost is involved. So from where does this funding will come? So there may be other sources, but at the same time, in 1883, a fund was created. It was called as National Fund, and all the nationalists who wanted to contribute towards India's freedom, they could contribute to this fund, and the funds which were present here, they will be utilized for what? Political agitation. Okay, political agitation. Next, Indians in 1885, Indians fought for the right to join the volunteer corps. So there was an organization called as Volunteer Corps. So only Europeans could join this. Only Europeans could join this. Indians were prohibited from joining this. So again, this was considered as prohibitory, discriminatory. So Indians were not treated on par with Europeans. That is why Indians fought against this as well. So they said that Indians should also be allowed to join volunteer corps. So here in this context, we shall not worry about what is volunteer corps and all. At a superficial level, we shall understand that Indians were not allowed to join volunteer corps, whereas Europeans were allowed to join. So all these various developments, what do they indicate? They indicate that Indian people, before the formation of Indian National Congress, they were unhappy because of these various measures. And also with few of the examples, we'll come to know that some kind of fund collection was also going on in order to what? Start political agitation against the Britishers. It means the formation of Indian National Congress, it did not take overnight. Rather, there was an effort which had gone into its formation well beyond that, okay, before that. And because of all these efforts, they wanted to create a pan-India organization which could unite India. And with that purpose, Indian National Congress was formed. So these examples, they just indicate that Indian National Congress was not formed as part of the safety wall, but it had a purpose, and how it achieved those purposes also we shall see with the forthcoming discussions. Okay, forthcoming discussions or developments. So before we move into the next part, from mains point of view, when you are writing an answer, so when it comes to suppose if a question is asked how to burst the myths surrounding the formation of Indian National Congress, then we have to present the points that before the formation of the Indian National Congress also, there are many concerns which India had. And among the concerns, we can mention few of them. So one is cotton imports duty, Afghan war, vernacular, Arms Act, Plantation Labor and Inland Immigration Act, Ilbert Bill, National Fund, Volunteer Corps and all. Okay. So based on these key points, we can easily what? Construct an answers in mains as well. Next, let us see few of the developments. India, a nation in the making. So Tilak, Surendranath Banerjee and other leaders, they always used to say that India is a nation in the making. Okay, a nation is being created. So why they used to make this statement? Because Britishers often they used to make mockery of India. In what sense? They used to say that India could not be united or freed because of the wide diversity. So India had a wide diversity. Even today we have wide diversity with respect to religion. So it may be Hinduism, it may be Islam, it may be Christianity, it may be Buddhism, it may be Sikhism, Jainism, etc. Religious diversity. When it comes to language, we have Hindi, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Marathi, Assamese. Okay, we have what? Linguistic diversity as well. So amongst all these diversities, it will not be possible for the Indians to unite. So India can never be freed. It will never get freedom. So this was the mockery which colonial administration that used to make. Okay, So in order to counter these, our leaders Tilak and Surendranath Banerjee, they often used to say that India is a nation in the making. Definitely we will get united, and definitely we will set free our India. Okay, or free India. So all these things indicate, as Surendranath Banerjee and Tilak, all they were part of the Congress. So it indicates the type of ideology which the Congress was holding. It indicates that Congress was not aligned in favor of Britishers, but rather it had a great idea of securing freedom for India. Next, here are a few of the developments which we see. They again add credence to our argument. So what is that? Promotion of unity was the major objective. So from various activities of the Congress, we can come to a conclusion that promotion of unity was its major objective. So here, through few of the words and few of the activities, we can come to that conclusion. So here, Ananda Charlu, so in his presidential address in 1891, described Indian National Congress as a mighty nationalizer, and that was the most glorious role. So this point can be beneficial from multiple points. One is, who was the president of Indian National Congress in 1891? P. Anandacharlu. So again, these points are very important. So UPSC often focuses on Indian National Congress sessions. So we know that starting from 1885, Indian National Congress, every year it meets, okay, at a particular place. We call it as a session. So in 1885, first session, 1886, second session, 87, third session, and so on, 88, 89, 90, 91, and so on. So UPSC focuses on few of these important sessions, and it also focuses on who was the person presiding that particular session. So from that perspective, we need to understand that 1891 session president was P. Anandacharlu. And while giving the presidential speech, he described that Indian National Congress as a mighty nationalizer. So Indian National Congress was acting as a what? Nationalizer. Okay, it was arousing the nationalistic feelings among the people, and it was a good nationalizer. So this point can be beneficial from both prelims as well as mains point of view. Next, first president W.C. Banerjee. So we know Indian National Congress was formed in 1885. The first president was W.C. Banerjee. So in this first session, he laid down three basic aims of the Congress. So what will be the aim of the Congress? So he put forth what? Three basic aims. But among them, one was the fuller development and consolidation of the sentiments of national unity. So we shall for time being ignore about the other two aims, but among the three aims, one aim was to consolidate the sentiments of national unity. So the job of Indian National Congress is to build the national unity, create a feeling among the people that all of us, we are one, and our goal should be to secure freedom. So this kind of nationalistic building of nationalistic feelings was an important goal of Congress. Okay, so this was put forth by W.C. Banerjee in his first session. Okay, first session. Again, this also indicates the intention which the Congress had. It makes it clear that formation of Congress was not the part of safety wall theory. Not part of safety wall theory. Next, few more points here. So I.P. Minayev, a Russian traveler. Okay, again, these points, they will not be important from prelims point of view, but definitely they can be quoted in mains. So once when he visited India and he got an opportunity to meet Banerjee, so IPF Minayev asks Banerjee, what practical results did the Congress leaders expect from the Congress? So you already formed the Indian National Congress in 1885, but what are the results that you are expecting from it? So this was the question asked by Minayev to Banerjee. So at that time, Banerjee replies, growth of national feeling and unity of Indians. Unity of Indians. So before the formation of Indian National Congress, there was nationalistic feelings, but very less. Okay, unity was also very less. But because of the formation of the Indian National Congress, we are promoting unity and also indirectly nationalistic feelings. So this is what we are expecting from the Indian National Congress. So again, here also it indicates with what kind of intent Indian National Congress started. Next, Hindu Prakash of Bombay. So Hindu Prakash is a newspaper. So after the first session, commenting on the first session, it wrote, what it wrote? It marks the beginning of new life. It will greatly help in creating national feeling and binding together distant people by common sympathies and common ends. So very beautiful statement. Now, people, how can they unite? Based on some common factors. For example, if it is a religious factor, then the people will unite at a temple. Okay, temple or masjid or any other religious places. But if you want to unite people who belongs to different faiths, different religion, different languages, then there should be some binding factor. So what should be that binding factor? That binding factor should be nationality. So who provided this platform? Indian National Congress provided the platform of what? Common aim, that is nationality and securing the national freedom. In this way, it has played a very important role. So these were the words what? Made by Hindu in the newspaper called as Hindu Prakash. So again, these kind of points can be quoted in mains. Next, we shall see how Congress, Indian National Congress, tried to what? Promote unity. So first we shall see region-wise unity promotion. Next, religion-wise unity promotion. So we know that, or as we discussed, every year there used to happen Indian National Congress sessions. We call them as annual sessions. Okay, annual sessions. Now, in an effort to reach all regions, it was decided to rotate the Congress session among different parts of the country. Now, in order to promote unity, for example, there are different regions here. Here we have Karnataka, here we have Punjab, next West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh. Now every year, if a session is held only in Punjab, then the people residing in other parts of India, they'll feel that there is some kind of discriminatory treatment happening and this organization does not belong to us. But if every year Indian National Congress session is taking place at different places, then everyone will feel that this Indian National Congress belongs to us. It is our organization. It is working for us. We should work for it. So in this way, in order to promote unity, Indian National Congress annual sessions, they used to take at different places. If one year it was held in Punjab, then the next year it will be held in Karnataka. Next year it will be held in Madhya Pradesh, in West Bengal, and so on. It means every year Indian National Congress sessions, they never used to take place at single place, but at different places. Okay, at different places. So the ultimate goal is to promote unity. Next, the president was to belong to a region other than where the Congress session was being held. Again, an important point. Now, let us assume Indian National Congress session is being held in Karnataka. Then Karnataka, let us assume in Bangalore. Then a person of Bangalore will not act as president. So rather, person who belongs to some other state, it may be Punjab or Madhya Pradesh or West Bengal, so they will act as president. They will act as president. Okay. Similarly, when the session is going on in Punjab, so a leader of Punjab will not act as the president of Indian National Congress session, but rather person belonging to some other region. So in this way, in this way, they promoted region-wise unity. They promoted region-wise unity. An important point to note. Okay. So again, important from both prelims as well as mains point of view. Next, religion-wise unity promotion. So there are various developments which indicates religion-wise unity promotion. So in 1888 session, a resolution was made. An understanding was reached to remove the fears of minorities. A rule was made in 1888 session that no resolution was to be passed to which an overwhelming majority of Hindu or Muslim delegates objected. So in every annual Indian National Congress annual sessions, so let us assume somewhere in Delhi session is going on. So this to this session, people belonging to different religion, it may be Hinduism or Muslim. So Hindu delegates will also attend it, Muslim delegates will also attend it. So when any kind of discussion is, when any kind of decision has to be taken, when any kind of decision has to be taken here in the annual session, and if either majority of the Hindus or Muslims objected to it, then such a decision will not be taken. Okay, will not be taken. It means the decision which will be taken by taken in the annual sessions, so it should not hurt the religious feelings either of Hindus or Muslims. Okay, in this way, religion-wise unity was also promoted. Okay, promoted. Next, in 1889, a minority clause was adopted in the resolution demanding reform of legislative councils. So, according to the clause where Parsis, Christians, Muslims, or Hindus were a minority, so their number elected to the councils would not be less than their proportion in the population. So, very important point to promote what religion-wise unity. Now, let us consider the example of Karnataka. So, in Karnataka, we have, let us assume for time being, these legislative council as legislative assembly, there are 224 MLAs. Okay, 224 MLAs. So, let us assume, just to make our discussions easier, so 50% are Muslims, 50% are Hindus. For time being, we shall ignore all other religions. Okay, all other religions. So here a rule was made that, okay, the minority, so the proportional representation should be there. For example, in 224, if there are 112 Hindu MLAs, then there should be 112 Muslim MLAs. Okay, Muslim MLAs. So as per their population, there should be a representation in legislative council. So this understanding was reached in 1889. Okay, this is just an example, but you can connect the things. So finally, what we want to highlight here is Indian National Congress was trying to promote unity based on religion. Okay, based on religion, or overcoming the religious differences and building the unity. Okay, so these were the various developments. Next, not to take up questions of social reform. Again, a very important point. So we have already seen in the previous class about the social reform and political reform. So an example of political reform is securing the voting rights for women is an example of political right. Now, abolishing sati system is an example of social reform. Okay, social reform. In the second session, so here we'll get to know that who was the president of second session? Dadabhai Naoroji, which was held in 1886. In the second session, Dadabhai Naoroji said that the main goal of Congress should be what? Political reforms and not social reforms. Okay, and not social reforms. So he said that Congress must confine itself to the questions in which the entire nation has a direct participation. So when it comes to political related things, then the entire nation has a direct participation. When it comes to social reform, so the social reform might be confined to a particular religion. For example, overcoming what sati system, it's a social reform pertaining to Hindus. When it comes to triple talaq, it comes to a social reform pertaining to Muslims. So Congress should not touch such kind of issues. Rather, it should touch the political affairs in which the entire nation has direct participation. Again, this also indirectly it promoted religious unity. So we are met together as a political body to represent to our rulers our political aspirations. So when we present ourselves to the Britishers, so we will not be presenting our problems related to social things and all, but rather we will be presenting our political aspirations. And our political aspiration is we want to get freed and we want to rule ourselves. We want to create a sovereign country. So this was declared by Dadabhai Naoroji in second session. Okay, second session of Indian National Congress. Next, another important. Now, many times UPSC asks such kind of questions. What is that? So, through which other revolution Indian National Congress was what? It got inspiration. So, Congress wanted to organize the sustained political activity. So, it got inspiration from another such movement which was going on in Britain, and that we call it as AntiCore Law League. So, what is AntiCore Law League? The detailed discussion, it's not important. Okay, it's not important. We shall only understand that there was a league called as AntiCore Law League. So where it was formed? In Britain. Okay, in Britain. Why? In order to bring reform of corn laws. There are some laws called as corn laws, and in order to bring reform in them, bring reform on them and to create pressure on the government, a league was formed in Britain, and that is called as AntiCore Law League. Who started it? Cobden and Bright started it in 1838. Okay, in 1838. So how AntiCore Law League used to work? In a similar fashion, Congress had an ambition to work in a similar fashion. So Congress had an ambition to work in a similar fashion. So if a question appears, then we can say that Congress was inspired by the work of AntiCore Law League. Okay, that much information would be sufficient. Next, here is this an example. So might not be beneficial from Plim's point of view or either Main's point of view, but here we'll understand that how leaders were supportive of one another. Okay, how leaders were supportive of one another. So Justice Ranade, who was known as political sage. So this question can be asked. Who was known as political sage? Justice Ranade. So when Gokhale expressed disappointment over the government's reply to the carefully and laboriously prepared memorial by the Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, Ranade had pacified him. So Pune Sarvajanik Sabha had sent a request to government. It sent a letter highlighting the problems and all, and here Gokhale had played an important role while sending this memorial. But the government's response was blank, not up to the mark. So Gokhale expressed to what? Justice Ranade, Mahadev Govind Ranade, that with so much hard effort we presented a memorial to government, but the government response was not proper. Okay, so when he expressed this disappointment, Justice Mahadev Govind Ranade, they pacified him. So saying that let's have patience. Definitely a day will come when government will listen. So these kind of supportive leaders existed. So this also indicates. Okay, so the goal of Congress was not to work to create some kind of haphazard things, but the ultimate aim is to secure freedom. Okay, secure freedom. Next, Antonio Gramsci, the famous Marxist, Italian Marxist. So he says that Congress' objective was to construct what he calls the headquarters of a movement. So this question can be asked. So who among the following made a statement that Indian National Congress was created as the headquarters of the movement? So it is Antonio Gramsci. So what is headquarters of a movement? Now, generally, if you look at any company, then they'll be having a headquarter. The main office, we call it as headquarter. Apart from that, many branches will be there. Similarly, in India, before the formation of Indian National Congress, so we had small organizations at different parts of the country. and they used to do agitations which were confined to only that region. But now at the all India level, we were in need of an organization, and such a requirement was fulfilled by the formation of Indian National Congress. That's why in the context of the agitation, we can call that formation of Indian National Congress is akin to acting as headquarters of a movement. Okay, there are small movements going on all over the country, but the headquarter of a movement is Indian National Congress, the movement which has been led by Indian National Congress. Okay. So this is to create a common all India national political leadership. Okay. Political leadership. Again, these points can be quoted in mains. Next, political democracy, the main objective. So what was the Congress main objective? The main objective was political democracy based on doctrine of sovereignty of people. So what is sovereignty of people? The ultimate power should lie on people. So we want to create such kind of democracy. So this was the goal of Congress. So whether we have political democracy today? Yes, we have political democracy. So what are the important tools of political democracy? We shall see later on. So in political democracy, we need to have people have to make laws for themselves. So in India, whether people make laws for themselves? Yes. So 130 crore people, we cannot go and sit together and have a discussion. That is why we send our representatives. We elect our Lok Sabha members and send them to parliament, and these elected representatives, they make laws on our behalf. So it means indirectly, so we are participating in this sovereignty. So it means we are sovereign, we are making rules for ourselves. So this kind of political democracy was the main objective of Indian National Congress. So it can also be understood from the words of Dadabhai Naoroji. So Dadabhai Naoroji, he said that the new lessons that kings are made for the people, not people for their kings. So very important. So now what kind of system we want to form is where kings should work for the people and people should not work for the king. So again, this point indicates that the Congress was fighting for political democracy. Okay, political democracy which we presently have. Okay. So it speaks about their intention. Next, how was Congress organized? Very important. So Congress was organized in the form of parliament. So we know about parliament. So the major role of parliament is to make laws and to have control over the government. So it was organized in the form of parliament. The word Congress, from where did this word Congress come? So they have borrowed this word from North American history. So from the North American history, the word Congress means an assembly of the people. Okay, an assembly of the people. So an assembly of people, they were doing something for the favor of the nation. So that's why they adopted this word, and that's why Indian National Congress. So the word was adopted from North America. Even this is also important. Important. And the sessions of the Indian National Congress, they were held in a democratic way. Sessions were conducted in democratic way. So what do we understand by democratic way? So whenever you are any kind of discussions are taking place, then if it is happening in democratic way, it means there are debates going on. And whenever there is a disagreement, they'll go for voting. So whosoever will get the votes in their favor, so that decision will be taken. So all such kind of practices were there in Indian National Congress. So it was a democratic form of organization. Okay. Very important point to remember. Next, it fought against every infringement of the freedom of press. So whenever there was a infringement of freedom of press, so whenever press was its freedom was being taken away by the government, so Congress fought for it. So it indicates the passion that Congress had towards the freedom of press. And freedom of press is a very important part of democratic government, okay, democratic system. Next, they struggled for the separation of judicial and executive powers. So we have already seen about the judicial powers and executive powers in polity, and if at all you are confused, you can watch our videos related to them. So you can understand what is judicial power, what is executive power, and what is separation between judicial power and executive power through our polity videos. Okay. They also fought against racial discrimination. So discrimination based on the color of the skin. Okay. So these various developments, okay, after the formation of Congress, so have been evaluated by Dadabhai Naoroji as well as G.K. Gokhale. Okay, through their writings, they have highlighted that what kind of role has Congress played, okay, after its formation. So with what kind of feelings it had started. Okay, it had started. So all these things, they indicate that all the various developments of the discussions indicate that Congress was not formed as part of the safety wall theory, but it had started with a noble intention of securing freedom for India. Securing freedom for India. If that was the intention, the next question that arises is, If that was the case, why an Indian did not start Indian National Congress? Why did we allow a foreigner, a European, A.O. Hume, to start Indian National Congress? So this is the next question and the final part. So very important point to remember here is India had what? Courageous and committed leaders. There was no absence of leadership. We had leaders like Dadabhai Naoroji, we had leaders like Justice Madhav Govind Ranade, Feroz Shah Mehta, Subramanya Iyer, Surendranath Banerjee, etc. There are many leaders. But in spite of that, they did not start Indian National Congress, but rather they allowed A.O. Hume to start it, and they also extended support. They cooperated with Hume. Why they cooperated? Because they did not want to arouse official hostility at such an early stage. They did not want to get blowbacks from the Britishers. That's why they supported. And also, an important point to note here, if an Indian was to lead it, Britishers would have suppressed it. So rather than A.O. Hume, if some other Indian had taken the lead and started and planned to start this organization, then Britishers would have crushed it. And as it was started by an European, so Britishers, they did not crush it. So that is why Indians supported A.O. Hume in the formation of Indian National Congress. Finally, a very important point to note, Hume was highly respected and person of high wisdom. And also the Indian leaders thought that Hume was a very good person and there is nothing wrong in supporting him in the formation of Indian National Congress. Indian National Congress. And finally, important point, if the Britishers hope to use the Congress as the safety wall, the Congress leaders hope to use Hume as a lightning conductor. Very important. Very important. Now we all know about safety wall. So with the theory is like this, Indian National Congress was created as a safety wall, so that if all of the Indians, they start resisting against the British at one point of time, then it would have been difficult for the Britishers to control the masses. That is why they formed Indian National Congress. So this is one theory. This is one theory. But many Congress leaders, they believed that they used Hume as a lightning conductor. What is lightning conductor? So on top of our home, generally we keep an iron rod and which is connected to the earth. So whenever there is a lightning strike, in the absence of this rod, what happens? It will cause damage to our home. Because of the presence of this lightning conductor, whenever there is a lightning, so it will take all that energy and it will get transferred to the earth. In this way, the shock to this home will be prevented. Similarly, A.O. Hume acted like this, as a lightning conductor. How? Suppose if there was no A.O. Hume, if there was some other Indian over here, then Britishers would have crushed. But now Britishers have not crushed it because it is being led by A.O. Hume. So if many people believed that Britishers created Indian National Congress as a safety wall, then Congress people, they believed that Congress used A.O. Hume as a lightning conductor so that the national movement or the national consciousness which is being aroused should not be suppressed. So this is the reality about the Congress. So from this topic we got to know that the real nature or the reality behind the formation of the Indian National Congress was not to act as safety wall, but to secure its larger goal of securing freedom for India. So this was in the previous class we discussed about myth, and in this class we discussed about the reality. Similarly, in the forthcoming classes we will be discussing about the other important topics related to UPSC. For all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.